Hi, I'm Ian. I've just completed 10 sessions with Dan Monroe, doing some one-to-one coaching. So this is my video testimonial. I'm doing a video testimonial because, carrying on in the spirit of the coaching, it's something, talking to the camera is something I want to get more comfortable at for my own business. So I thought, why not carry on? Carry on working towards the goals that we set during our coaching session. I thought about coaching since about 8 months ago. I've been working towards living more authentically with integrity and trying to be as honest as I can for a few years now, with the kind of goal of becoming somebody I respect and actually being able to trust my decision making. But about 9 months ago, I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. And looking back at it really made me question how authentic I was being and how honest I could be, particularly in my interactions with women I'm attracted to. So I happened to be listening to a podcast on high existence with Dan Monroe, and everything he was talking about, his journey, really resonated with me. I heard a lot of myself in that transition and kind of his process, who he'd been and who he became. So I joined up with Brojo. I went on a few calls with Dan before I committed to anything, but the first 2 calls, just everything seemed to click. I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So just went for it. What did those sessions look like? We first of all identified the kind of major areas where I wasn't able to be honest, where narratives in my head about how my honesty would be perceived and what the outcomes of it would be were really holding me back. And so each session we identified those narratives and then looked at actions I could take in between each session to kind of gradually start to push them back, convince, my emotional centers, the emotional centers of my brain, that these were a fiction, a damaging fiction, that they weren't true anymore. And so that's what we did. Each week we kind of checked in, how I was doing, what blockages had come up this week, and what actions I needed to take. And they ranged from kind of very general, generic, maybe approaching more people, giving compliments, etc., through to specific conversations I needed to have with specific people. The process itself, in terms of the sessions, organising everything, and finding a time each week to talk, was super easy. Dan makes it really easy to kind of go through it. And a lot of the actions weren't necessarily easy. Actually, deliberately kind of quite tough and uncomfortable actions to take. If you're trying to be honest and uncomfortable and have the kind of confrontations you need to live with integrity, then yeah, they're deliberately hard. But Dan was really good at always finding a balance of, hard, challenging, but doable, and you're definitely going to be able to go away and do it. So it was never impossible tasks. We might identify an impossible task, but then break it down into steps and find, okay, this week I can do this, and then maybe in the future I can do this bit, and build it up like that. So it was never like, here's your action, oh god, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. If that was the case, it's bring it back a step and get the right balance between possibility and discomfort. How was Dan's coaching itself? I was very little to fault. I mean, he was very encouraging at every step, understanding, but at the same time asking, piercing questions and delivering, identifying my own narratives or evasion tactics or whatever it was with, kind of the right kind, the piercing honesty that I needed and wanted. So every session was suitably uncomfortable, as I hoped for, but always with that gentle encouragement and pushing on to the next one and onto the next step. And I was amazed. He always has a video or another resource on something that we'd talked about or an issue that had come up. Every week there were one or two, videos or podcasts that he'd produced in the past that, spoke to exactly the issue I was talking about at the right time. It was quite staggering, actually. Um, yeah, very little to fault in terms of communication, providing the resources he said he would, supporting the way he said he would, etc. How have I changed over those 10 sessions? I feel like quite a different person at the moment. At the time when I came to speak to Dan or approach Dan about coaching, I felt a kind of constant background anxiety and kind of vague sense of shame, kind of all the time, that was driving me to constantly need to do more to validate myself, or need to work harder, or need to kind of adjust myself in order to get others to approve of me, etc. And for the most part, that's just gone now. I feel kind of calm and at ease with myself. If I notice that come back, I know that there's something I'm not doing related to the values that I've identified that I should be doing. And I have the tools now to kind of go, notice that, like, oh, right, what am I not doing? I'm avoiding this. Okay, this is what I got to do. I know there's a way out. I know how I have to act to get rid of this. I know what I need to do. And yeah, Dan's coaching's given me the tools, along with the Brojo courses, of course, and the email courses on values and journaling, particularly. I found particularly helpful in terms of having now the skills to be able to constantly keep updating it and keep pushing forward, without Dan's one-to-one assistance now, which is amazing, and it's pretty great. I mean, things that were impossible 3 months ago, like approaching a random girl in the street and saying, "I think you're attractive," is now doable. I mean, I did it last week. Terrifying still, but doable. So that is just massive. Like, that was just something that was never on the cards, and now I can do it. So that's a pretty big step change in my ability, and my ability to be honest and open and have the necessary confrontations with everybody and be courageous in telling people. I mean, this was a big issue for me, being courageous in telling people that they mean something to me, putting myself out there and kind of wearing my heart a little bit more on my sleeve. I'm doing that now fairly consistently, and my friendships, my relationships with others are kind of blossoming as a result and deepening where I want them to. In terms of the value, it's a big financial investment, but Dan makes it really easy. I don't have to pay back any more than I need to, so I'm paying back a comfortable amount monthly. I'll be paying that back for a while after the coaching's finished, but I think I may have, I will have got where I am eventually without the coaching, but to have been able to get such a massive change in 3 months, I think that would have taken years by myself, or picking bits and pieces out of, the self-development world online. So, yeah, in terms of the value, like, it's a lot of money, but it's, worth it. The actual change in my life has been invaluable, so I can't really, there's no comparison. If I were to recommend it to somebody who wasn't sure about it, I would just say go for it. Dan will make sure you can afford it, even if it's a long-term investment. But if you're on the fence about doing it, it's 100% worth it. I'm sure I'll be back at some point when I reach another level of blockage, or I was very skeptical about coaching beforehand, skeptical of the whole industry, and of the value of it. But hearing Dan on that podcast and then working with him, I would definitely recommend it for anybody who thinks they need it, or thinks they want it, or thinks they could benefit from it. and is willing to, if not reticent to, part with the money. And finally, if I had to pick one thing, or if there's anything I can think of that Dan could improve on, I would say possibly just reviewing notes from the previous session, so that I found that it would take a little while to remind him of what we had spoken about previously. And so I think just to add that extra special touch would be to have reviewed the notes, the major points from last time, so that we knew exactly what we talked about, and could even lead with that. But I think other than that, I can't really pick anything. Overall, the experience was, brilliant. That's my video testimonial.